In the summer of 1587, over 100 men, women, and children stepped onto the shore of Roanoke Island. 3 years later, they were gone. Not murdered, not buried, not scattered, just gone. No bodies were ever found. No graves were ever marked. The only thing left behind was a single word carved into a post, and to this day, no one knows what happened to them. The colony was not an accident. It was planned, funded, organized by some of the most powerful men in England. The year was 1587. England was hungry for land in the New World. Spain had already claimed vast territories. France was expanding. England needed a foothold. Sir Walter Raleigh secured the rights to establish a settlement. He chose Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Remote, dense, surrounded by water. The expedition was led by John White, an artist and mapmaker. He brought his daughter, Eleanor, who was pregnant. Also among the group were farmers, craftsmen, families. This was not a military outpost. It was meant to be permanent. They arrived in July, built homes, cleared land, planted crops. On August 18th, Eleanor gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. But supplies were running low. John White made a decision. He would sail back to England. He would return with food, tools, medicine. He promised his daughter he would be back within months. He told the colonists that if they had to leave, they should carve a message into a tree. If they were in danger, they should carve a cross above the message. Then he left. John White did not return in months. He tried, but England was at war with Spain. Every ship was needed for the conflict. The Queen forbade voyages to the New World. White was trapped. 3 years passed. By the time he finally secured a ship and reached Roanoke in August of 1590, the island was silent. The settlement was abandoned. The houses were still standing, but they were empty, overgrown. The wooden palisades surrounding the colony had been partially dismantled, not destroyed, dismantled, as if taken apart carefully. White searched for clues. On a post near the entrance, he found something. The word CROATOAN had been carved into the wood. He walked further. On a tree at the edge of the settlement, another carving, 3 letters. C-R-O. There was no cross, no sign of distress, but there were no people either. No bodies, no bones, no indication of where they had gone or why. White wanted to search CROATOAN Island, about 50 miles south. The name referred to a nearby island and also to a friendly Native American tribe, but a storm was coming. His crew refused to stay. They sailed back to England. John White never returned. He died years later, never knowing what happened to his daughter, to his granddaughter, to the colony he left behind. The disappearance might have been forgotten, but it wasn't, because it didn't make sense. If the colonists had been killed, there would have been bodies, signs of violence, bones scattered, graves dug. There were none. If they had starved, they would have died where they lived. Bodies would have remained in homes, in fields. There were none. If they had been taken captive, there would have been accounts, stories passed down among local tribes, evidence of English people living among native communities. There were some stories, but nothing conclusive, nothing that explained the entire colony. And then there was the word itself, CROATOAN. It was carved deliberately, clearly. But what did it mean? Was it a destination? A warning? A name? John White believed the colonists had relocated to CROATOAN Island. He thought they were alive, safe, living with the tribe. But no evidence was ever found. Over the centuries, theories emerged, some logical, some strange, none of them complete. The first theory is relocation. It suggests the colonists simply moved. Roanoke Island was not ideal. The soil was poor, fresh water was scarce, relations with some nearby tribes were tense. The CROATOAN people, however, were friendly. They had helped earlier expeditions. Their island had better resources. Perhaps the colonists decided to join them. Perhaps they dismantled their homes and took the materials with them. Perhaps they integrated into the tribe, married, had children, disappeared into history not through violence, but through assimilation. There is some evidence for this. In the early 1700s, English explorers encountered Native Americans with gray eyes, with light hair. Some claim to be descendants of the lost colonists. But gray eyes and light hair are not proof. And if the colonists had simply relocated, why did no one ever find them? Why did John White, who knew the area, millennia, never locate a single survivor? The answer is unclear. The second theory is darker. It suggests the colonists were killed, not by disease, not by starvation, by people. Relations between English settlers and native tribes were complicated. Some tribes were friendly, others were not. The English had already angered certain groups. Earlier expeditions had been violent. A native chief had been killed. Retaliation was possible. Some historians believe the colonists were attacked, wiped out, their bodies disposed of in a way that left no trace. But this theory has problems. There were over 100 colonists. An attack of that scale would have left evidence, arrowheads, burn marks, something. There was nothing. And if the colony had been destroyed, why carve CROATOAN? Why leave a message at all? Unless the message was a lie, a deception carved by someone else. But who and why? The third theory is the most unsettling. It suggests the colonists tried to leave, not on foot, by sea. Perhaps they built boats, attempted to sail to CROATOAN Island, or further, to another English settlement, to a passing ship. But something went wrong. A storm, a miscalculation. The boats capsized. Everyone drowned. This would explain the lack of bodies. The ocean does not leave evidence. It swallows everything, but it raises other questions. If they planned to leave by sea, why carve CROATOAN? Why not carve gone or sailed? And if they drowned, why has no wreckage ever been found? No remains washed ashore? The ocean is vast, but it is not infinite. Somewhere, there should be something. Over the years, people have searched. They have excavated sites, analyzed tree rings, studied Native American oral histories, used ground-penetrating radar. Some findings have been intriguing. Archaeological digs have uncovered European artifacts at sites far from Roanoke. A sword hilt, a musket, pieces of pottery. Were these carried by the colonists, or by traders, or by later settlers? No one knows. In 2012, researchers discovered hidden symbols on a map drawn by John White. The symbols marked 2 locations inland. Excavations at those sites found objects that could have belonged to the colonists, but again, nothing definitive. In recent years, DNA studies have been conducted on descendants of certain Native American tribes. Some results suggest European ancestry, but ancestry is not the same as identity, and none of it explains what happened that day in 1587. The mystery endures because it is incomplete. There is just enough evidence to suggest the colonists survived, just enough silence to suggest they didn't. The carving said CROATOAN, but no cross was carved above it. Does that mean they were safe? Or does it mean they didn't have time to finish the message? The houses were empty, but they weren't destroyed. Does that mean the colonists left willingly? Or were they forced to leave everything behind? The palisade was dismantled, but carefully. Does that mean they planned to use the wood elsewhere? Or were they trying to erase evidence of their presence? Every answer creates another question. And in the silence between those questions, something lingers, a feeling that history is not telling the whole story. John White died without answers. Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, vanished into legend. 115 people stepped onto Roanoke Island, and then they were gone. No bodies, no graves, no closure, just a word carved into wood, and the weight of all the things we will never know. So what happened to them? Were they absorbed into another culture, their English names forgotten, but their blood still flowing through descendants alive today? Were they erased by violence, their remains hidden so well that 400 years of searching has found nothing? Or did they walk into the wilderness, hoping for survival, only to be swallowed by a land that keeps its secrets? Perhaps the real question is not what happened, but why, after all this time, we still have no idea.